Welcome to the Total Soccer Show and the Bulletin, our semi-regular news roundup show. Today, we're looking back at the January transfer window and the deals that happened and maybe some that didn't. We have our mid-season predictions for Europe's top 5 leagues and we're discussing a big MLS move. James Rodriguez potentially coming to Minnesota. Who'd have thunk it? My name's Ryan Bailey. Joining me today, hello Taylor Rockwell.
What a world to be alive. I'm very excited. And not just because I'm here with you three fine fellows.
What a world to be alive, indeed. Indeed, Taylor. Who'd have thunk it? We're here. Isn't it right?
I feel like you're saying that sarcastically, but I am authentic. James in Minnesota. Can't wait to see him be like, it's this cold for how long? It's going to be great.
He'll be pleased. They do play Wonderball there, so that's welcoming to anybody, I'd say.
That should make up for it, I'm sure.
Yeah, it should do. That was probably part of the contract negotiations, I'm sure. Hello, Joe Larry. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. I mean, he'll have plenty of time to sing Wonderwall, right, when he's not on the field, presumably. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe that's how this is going to go down. I actually am quite excited, not to spill out everything for segment 3, about this whole thing. I just don't know if the dude's going to play soccer. But that's not my problem. That's somebody else's problem.
Yeah, it is. We're going to talk about that problem, as you say, in C Block. Before we get there, we're going to say hello to Graham Ruthven. Hello, Graham.
Hello, Ryan Bailey. Now I am thinking about whether he's going to bring the big bug with him. I presume he adopted that bug post-2014 World Cup. Like a sort of Jiminy Cricket character.
It's like his equivalent of Messi's big dog. Like
That's right,
bug,
yeah.
You know, everybody's got
bug.
their thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now you got
Graham,
me thinking.
for people who don't remember an insect reference from 12 years ago, can you explain?
12 years ago.
Who are those people? Yeah, 12 years ago is scary. Wow. There's not really much to this story. James Rodriguez playing at the 2014 World Cup, and it was spotted that he had just a giant insect. And when I say giant insect, this World Cup was in Brazil. That's maybe some important context there. Like the biggest insect I've ever seen in my life. We would think it would, if it happened now, we'd think it was AI. It wasn't AI, it was real, and I presume it's moving with him to Minnesota.
I thought it was that Jim Henson made it. It was actually, like, there was someone inside it, I'm pretty sure.
I think it was on that special I watched last night along with Sabrina Carpenter. James Rodriguez's big bug. That was the real guest star.
You've lost me on that reference, Graham. What are you watching with Sabrina Carpenter?
Oh, come on. The Muppets are back this week. That's
Really?
a big deal, yeah. And Sabrina Carpenter's the guest star.
Oh, fantastic. I do love me some Muppets.
She's about the size of a Muppet, right?
She is. I think that's why they didn't
small
have to work that out, you know, filming-wise. Yeah, it was nice and easy for them.
Very good, very good. The Nicholas Stoller Muppets movie is one of my favourite movies of all time. Is
that the Jason Segel one?
That is the Jason Segel
Is that the one with evil Kermit?
That may be the second one. Is that the Ricky Gervais one?
Yeah.
Which is sneaky good as well.
Sort of Soviet evil Kermit, right?
Yeah.
Tina Fey's in that one. That's good.
They're both good. Very good indeed. But it's
I
got
like
the,
John Carpenter's Escape from Muppet Island. Maybe I'm alone in that one.
I like everything Muppets related.
Yeah, it's not a bad Muppet movie, right? I think we're all aligned there.
Best Christmas movie, best pirate-themed movie, best thing I've seen with Sabrina Carpenter in it. All the boxes
Best
are ticked.
movie with an Oscar-winning song from one of Flight of the Conchords in it. It's got it all. It's really got it all. Excellent
Shiny?
stuff.
No way you just said
Shiny
Don't
should
set
have
him off.
won an Oscar. Patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. If you'd like our bonus content, by the way, bonus episodes, bonus video content, and access to our Discord server. All the cool kids are hanging out in there. It is patreon.com/Total Soccer Show. Thanks to everybody who supports us via that medium. All right, it is bulletin time. Let's talk first up about the January transfer window, which slammed shut, of course, earlier this week. According to The Guardian, 586 deals done, worth around $1.4 billion. The biggest of which was Antoine Semenyo going to Manchester City for around £62.5 million, or $70-something million. Graham, I feel like this window passed me by a little bit. It feels like there weren't any sort of really big storylines. Is that fair, or am I just losing touch?
No, I think it passed by most of the Premier League clubs, because that number that you mentioned there, what was it, 1-point-something billion? I presume that's the entire world, right? Is that Europe? Yep. It can't only be the Premier League, because the number that I found on the BBC article that I read yesterday was there was £390 million spent by Premier League clubs, which was down on £421 million from the previous year, and it was a long way from the peak of £815 million that we had in the 2023 January transfer window. I think Chelsea might have gone nuts in that transfer window. I think that's maybe what that was down to. But yeah, it felt like I feel like the January transfer window has been quieter in recent years, but even by that standard, this was a sluggish one. It was the quietest deadline day in Premier League history. There were just 7 signings made. So, to be honest, there's not a massive amount for us to talk about in this segment, hence why we're doing a segment and not a full episode on it. But I don't know, I feel like it's a sign that clubs are potentially getting smarter about the January transfer window. Like, even the stupid ones aren't quite rushing into panic buys like they used
Which
to.
ones are stupid? Tell us now.
Nottingham Forest.
I was thinking more Manchester United, Spurs, like that level of stupid. West Ham did do a couple deals, but it felt like they didn't completely cripple themselves ahead of their inevitable relegation to the Championship. Johan Lange, who is, I forget what his official title is, sporting director, technical director, whatever. He's the guy who does the transfers at Spurs, and he did an interview this week where he basically said that like they didn't jump into the transfer market to do any deals that they would regret by the time the summer came around. So, yeah, I think there's probably a PSR element to this as well, where clubs can't really panic buy like they used to in the past. So I think that's been a contributing factor.
Yeah, I agree with all of that, I suppose, but I do think part of this might be a bit of revisionist history. So the Athletic had a piece on this about the transfer action or lack thereof, and spending basically this year in the Premier League specifically is just a hair down from what it was in 2025. It's higher than it was in every other year but the 2023 year that Graham mentioned already, where Chelsea went Chelsea, and 2018. And that's going all the way back now a decade. So it was not really down this year. Spending, I mean, yes, it was down from 23. But this was more spending than we've had, frankly, in a lot of the years since COVID in the January window.
Yeah, I just don't know like how to account for. I don't know. Have you got anything on sort of inflation, Joe, or how many deals might be a better gauge of
Joe,
of
give
what
us some
we're talking
inflation
about?
numbers.
I don't know. I just think like
compare.
yeah, come on, Joe. Do you get what I'm saying though? Like, like Semenyo goes for 65 million in this window. In the past, maybe he goes for like 40 million, and that is relative to other deals like a huge transfer. So I don't know. Just anecdotally, I can't be the only one who felt like this was quite a quiet window compared to past ones.
I don't think you are. Ryan said it earlier. Transfer window slam shut. They always slam shut, and they have to slam shut. This one didn't really feel like it slammed shut. It just felt like it closed sort of gently, and I think that's because the biggest 2 moves of the January window, really across the board, were both Manchester City moves. It was Semenyo and Mark Gahey, and both of those deals were done before deadline day. And there's something about the drama of deadline day, even if it's a bit more idyllic because we don't have the same maybe coverage that there used to be. Like, even that idea maybe is part of why we feel like the January window is just not what it once was. I don't know if that's a piece of this puzzle or not, but the big moves happened earlier this year, I think. Absolutely.
I think there's another major component here, which is that the World Cup is this summer. And I think players are maybe hesitant to jump ship to a new opportunity that could end up not working out for them. Could mean they lose form, could mean that they fall out of favor with their national team. And so I think there's probably more complacency and more just comfort in staying where you are and then waiting for this summer and hoping you make the World Cup, you do well, and then there's a big move. And I think clubs are probably thinking the same, especially ones who are maybe going to be looking for a manager. There's going to be plenty of those coming out of the World Cup. So I also kind of felt like maybe some teams are inclined to keep their powder dry given their position or how much they've already spent this season and wait until the summer when it seems like things will probably open up again.
How do we feel about the deals that were done? Obviously, Semenyo going to Man City, Oscar Bob going to Fulham for 27 million, Conor Gallagher to Tottenham for 34 million, Lucas Paquetá, world's greatest Brazilian, off to Flamengo for 36 million as well. And one of the interesting ones, Crystal Palace with the 43 million deal for Jørgen Strand-Larsen, which we discussed briefly on the feed before. Woof, indeed. A big outlay for a forward with 1 league goal this season, albeit for a team that isn't very interested in scoring league goals this season. But it was interesting because Jean-Philippe Matata, who didn't go to Milan, his deal fell through with a failed medical. So Palace have got him and Mateta now. Graham, what do we think?
Yeah, Palace had themselves a window where they lost Mark Gahey for about 30 million less than they could have sold him for last summer. Don't really understand that one. And then spent the number I've seen banded around, I don't know if this includes add-ons, is 50 million for Strand-Larsen. I've kind of been on this show a bit of a defender of Jørgen Strand-Larsen. I think there is something there despite some of his underlying numbers that I've seen bounce around on social media. But 50 million is a wild fee for him. I do think that's sort of reflective of how thin on the ground top-level strikers are at the moment in his mould. And Palace ended up in a situation where it felt like they number one, they needed a striker for to replace Mateta. Obviously, that deal falls through. But also, they're in a bit of a situation, Palace, where they just need talent in through the door. They're still in the Conference League. They need to worry about relegation, Crystal Palace. I think they're 8 points above the drop zone. Their manager said he's leaving at the end of the season. There's a bad vibe around the place. Their squad is pretty thin on the ground. So it was just about getting players in through the door. They got Brennan Johnson quite early in the window. I think that's a decent deal. I mean, I've said about Brennan Johnson before. He's quite a weird player in that the only thing he does is make runs to the back post, and that's good for 10 goals a season, which is valuable, but for a winger, doesn't really offer you anything else. And then the other player that Palace wanted late in the window was Dwight McNeil, and that deal fell through. That would have been the biggest deal, I think, on transfer deadline day. That was going to be for about £25 million. I think Palace were maybe saved from themselves in that regard, because that would have been £100 million for Strand Larson, Brennan Johnson and Dwight McNeil, who are decent level, Premier League level players, but I don't know if they moved the needle for them that much. So they probably, all things considered, had the busiest window of any Premier League team.
Are you surprised that they weren't linked with more defenders, Graham? Given the loss of Mark Gay, given that it's not like their back line is rock solid and that they could be in a relegation fight soon, that felt like an area where they would want to strengthen.
Yeah, I think that's entirely fair. I mean, one of the things we're learning about Crystal Palace is Dougie Friedman, who was their former sporting director, technical director, whatever. Feels like maybe he was the brains of the operation, because a lot of these deals, previously Palace would go to France, or they would go to the Bundesliga to get, I guess, Chris Richards, and it felt like they had quite a good model of unearthing players in that method. They would go to the Championship, like Eberechi Eze, Michael Olise, all these players came from the Championship. And now it feels like there's less imagination in their transfer strategy, and I think cumulatively getting that bulk of sort of attacking players in might do something, but I don't feel great about the signings they made in this window.
How about Liverpool? The window may have slammed or slowly creaked shut, but they managed to get their jacket on just in time. There's Jeremy Jacquet. That didn't work. £60 million from Rennes, centre-back coming in to Liverpool. Going to come in the summer, I think, but obviously that deal signed up as well. So Liverpool making some, I suppose, much-needed centre-back reinforcements. Anyone feeling that one?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. I have still not seen a bunch of Jacquet so far, other than to be in love with the name. It's a legit number. I mean, Liverpool maybe were numb to this at this stage because of how much money they spent in the summer, but it's a legit number. I think it's a savvy move, at least in terms of it being a position of need, right? I mean, Liverpool understand that they are light in the back at the moment. Even when they're fully fit, I still think they're a little bit light in the back. Now they'll have a couple of young center backs that maybe won't have to bed in right away the start of next season, but they needed talent in that part of the field more than any other. Getting a deal over the line in that sense makes a lot of sense.
I think this leads to a question over Ibrahima Konate, who's obviously out of contract at the end of the season. Had previously, it feels like that situation is completely flipped, where in the summer, Liverpool were fighting to keep him because Real Madrid were giving them the Mbappe whispers ahead of this summer. And now he's had a bit of a horror show of a year. I understand recently there's been some maybe mitigating factors for that, but nonetheless he's underperformed. And now it feels like Liverpool aren't really willing to give him the wage that he wants. So is Jacquet, who, by the way, Football Manager stands know all about Jeremy Jacquet, in a few years, if Football Manager have done their homework, he turns into the best central defender in the world. Is he the Konate replacement? They've got Leone as well, who they spent money on last summer, got an injury, I think, on his debut, so he's coming back into the fold for the start of next season. Are they looking to add another experienced option? Keep in mind they were in for Gehi last summer. Or is this the centre-back pool sorted for the start of next year?
We'll see. On the continent, by the way, probably worth noting that Atletico Madrid were big spenders. Adam Lukman, Rodrigo Mendoza and Obed Vargas coming in for a combined £47 million. That number from The Guardian, which is a lot of money to finish third, I suppose.
a little bit. I mean, La Liga teams basically spend no money in the summer transfer window, in the winter transfer window, excuse me. When Cucho Hernandez goes to Real Betis last year, that's one of the biggest winter spends in Spain. And Cucho Hernandez is a good player. He's been really good for Betis, but we know Betis aren't giant spenders, and we know that Cucho is not going to fetch that sort of fee and didn't fetch that sort of fee. So this is real money for Atletico Madrid. I like the Lookman signing. I think he fits in a Diego Simeone team. He struggled this season for Atalanta, but has averaged about 12 non-penalty goals in each of his last 3 seasons for them, with some chance creation as well. He's a guy who can play through the middle, though maybe more ideally off of another player in a 2-striker setup. Okay, that makes sense. And he's a guy who can play a little bit wider as well and can be very dangerous in transition. I think he fits. I really like Atleti's business. I mean, I'm an Obed Vargas sympathizer. And the Mendoza signing from Elche seems like a really interesting one as well, where his profile is a little bit more attacking. Like maybe he's closer to an 8.5 than he is to a 6.5, like Obed Vargas is. So I really like those moves. Ryan, of course, you're right. It's liking them to a point, given the context of La Liga. But, still, good job, Atleti.
Yeah, I agree, Joe. I think the Lookman deal in particular is interesting. By the way, Obed Vargas, has been included in the matchday squad for tomorrow's game against Real Betis. So we might be seeing a little bit more of him than perhaps was anticipated. But Fenerbahce and Galatasaray for Lookman, they were apparently close to signing him. He had kind of been frozen out at Atalanta. He'd fallen out with the club. He wanted to move in the summer. Actually, a few windows in a row, he'd wanted to move. It hadn't materialised. He thought Atalanta were asking too much money for him. He's finally got a move here to Atleti. And I think this has the potential, 40 million euros, I think this has the potential to be incredible value. Especially because Atleti are now in the realm of having to find a long-term successor for Antoine Griezmann. I thought we were here a couple years ago, and then Griezmann found like a third or fourth wind in his career. He seems to be fading at this point. Someone remind me how many open DP spots LAFC have remaining, because now might be the time. But Lookman, have they still got one?
Well, I mean, they have all the U22s, but if they offloaded one of them, then they'll have one.
There we go. Things might be aligning for LAFC and the guy they wanted 3 years ago. But I think Lookman has that all-round game that Griezmann has. He can play as part of a front two, he can play out wide. I think he's a good dribbler. I think Griezmann is more nimble on the ball and maybe is like a better natural creator in possession. But I think Lookman's going to bring a lot to this Atleti team.
Excellent stuff. All right, unless there's any more January window discussion, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with our mid-season predictions. Who's going to win each of the big five leagues? Our opinions coming after these messages. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to The Bulletin. It's the time when we all look very smart with our mid-season predictions. We're going to predict who will win each title in each of the big five leagues. We're going to go, I suppose, with the Premier League. We should start off. Taylor, is it Arsenal's to lose? Is it Arsenal's to win? How are we feeling?
So I have long said that I think if City were in touching distance, I'll repeat it again, by Christmas time, that I thought they would win it. That was based on the idea that they would then kind of gel and find some collective spirit and kind of just string together a run of results that would put them in top spot. After this past weekend and the way that they capitulated to Tottenham twice and just seemed to have very little fight back, I'm less confident about that than ever.
Got 'em, boys.
Here's what I would say. I know this sounds maybe a little bit ridiculous, but I'm going to go with it anyway. I think if City loses this weekend, Arsenal wins the title. If City wins this weekend and beats Liverpool, I still lean City. I know that might be a little bit ridiculous in putting all of it on one result, but that feels like a game that City have to win, and Liverpool looked so good this past weekend against Newcastle that it kind of feels like they might, this could be the start of their run towards consistency, in which case I think City are in some trouble. So I lean Arsenal, but I would carve out that little spot that I still think City might be in there. Potentially.
Joe, so you got a chance?
Yep, absolutely. I love Taylor, the way he set this out and given real stakes this weekend. Taylor, that makes me happy, and now I actually am even more intrigued to see how things go. And you're right about Liverpool and how good they were last weekend. It's a real legitimate test for Man City, even a Man City that's not at full strength. I still have Arsenal winning it, right? I mean, my view on that hasn't changed. And I suppose that's sort of the coward's way out because they're on top of the table with a 6-point cushion, with most of the season played. So it's easy to feel pretty good about that. I also think a lot of the time in soccer, we conflate being fun to watch with being good. And the reality is Arsenal, and soccer as a whole at the highest levels, is getting stodgier. It's just getting stodgier than a different way than it was in the 90s when Ryan was in love with life, right? Like it's no longer low block defending for the best teams in transitioning, or mid block defending and transitioning from there and lots of crosses, and stodgy in that way. But it's stodgy in the way that we're going to just squeeze the living life out of the game with the ball and control it in the final third. And we're going to be somewhat stodgy defensively and very, very physical in our press. And Arsenal embody that really well. Are they a perfect team? No, of course they're not. And they have possession limitations. But still, we talk about Arsenal and kind of groan about them sometimes because they're not the most fun team to watch. Liverpool's more fun. Man City's more fun. The games are more open. But that their games, Arsenal, aren't the most open is part of what makes them so incredibly good. I think they are the best team in England right now. I think they might be the best team on the planet. If they're not, they're one of the 3 best teams on the planet. More on that later. and I think they're going to win the league.
Graham's nodding sagely.
Yep. I think Arsenal, like at this point, it would be the kind of collapse that, frankly, we haven't seen from this Arsenal team. I know there's all this talk about PTSD and past traumas of how they've been top at Christmas and haven't won the title. I think they've been top at Christmas 4 times, even going back to Wenger days. Not that that counts for much, but omens and all that, and not won the Premier League title. For this Arteta Arsenal, this would be an unprecedented collapse. And when they have kept, what was the number I saw yesterday? 20 clean sheets, I think, in 38 games in all competitions this year, which is by a million miles ahead of anyone else in the top 5 leagues in Europe. I just don't see it happening. Like, they've had injuries, Arsenal, this season, and they've still managed to move forward. I think their depth is a big reason why they've managed to do that. It feels like a lot of their injuries have cleared up. Like, Odegaard is back, Havertz is back, Gabriel Jesus is back, Saliba was out for a period, he's back, Gabriel's had suspension, he's back. So it would have to be something, I think it would have to come out of the blue for Arsenal to lose it at this point. And even if they did, I just do not have the faith that City or Liverpool or Villa is going to have the consistency. Like, City have won one of their last 6 league games. Like, they're not in good form either. So, yeah, I think Arsenal are going to win this fairly comfortably. I'll say by 5 or more points they'll win it.
Oh, okay. Very bullish. Graham, let's stay with you for the Liga. Barcelona 1 point ahead of Real Madrid as we speak. They've got to play each other towards the end of the season as well, in May as well. So that game could arguably swing it if things stay as tight as they are. Real Madrid being a bit more of a head case at the moment. Do you give an advantage to Barcelona?
Yeah, I do. Was I the only one who was surprised? And look, I pay more attention to La Liga than I think maybe most of us. 1 point. I thought it was like 3 or 4 right now, but it feels like Barcelona's advantage is more than 1 point. They really seem to be hitting their stride right now, with the exception of that defeat to Real Sociedad that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, where they battered La Real in that game. Didn't deserve to lose, really. I think they've won 12 games in a row in all competitions, so I just don't see that momentum stopping anytime soon. And I think Real Madrid are a team who could drop points at home to Levante or, Elche or a team of that sort in the way that I just do not believe Barca can, with the firepower that they have. Right now, Barcelona are in their best form of the season. So if we're not predicting them to win the title now, I'm not really sure when we were predicting them to win it at any point of this year.
They're another team in my top 3 of, I think there's a pretty clear best trio in Europe right now, and Barcelona are absolutely in that bunch for me. They're in incredible form, and they're playing incredible ball right now, Barcelona. They really, really are. I think they are going to win La Liga. I also think that the La Liga title race is the best one that's left, right? I mean, it's going to be a really, really good race because, of course, it's tight, yes. But Graham's talking about how Real Madrid could lose to a Levante. I know Barcelona haven't really been doing that. They still could. They absolutely still could. I mean, it is just, I think with the way they play, they are so incredibly good so much of the time. And I think their ceiling is so high. But if one thing goes wrong, more than if one thing goes wrong for an Arsenal, they're going to concede. And that makes it like hard to turn away. It's like watching a high-speed chase that you know is about to turn into a car crash, but you're just not quite sure, but you really do know it's going to happen. That has happened a couple of times for Barcelona under Hansi Flick. I still think they're an incredible team, and I think in general we make too much of their style of play. But I do think it could be a point here or a point there, even if it's also the thing or part of the thing, of course, the players first, but part of the thing that is like platforming them to be in the pole position to win the title in La Liga. It's a weird things can be two things situation.
I absolutely agree, Joe, on their vulnerabilities as a team. Like, Levante could score 3 against Barcelona.
Yeah, exactly.
But the numbers, like the last game Barcelona played, who were they playing at the weekend? Elche. Their XG, I think, was 6. They had 13 big chances. So even in games where they're wasteful, they're still scoring 3 or 4 goals. And so I think it would need to. I think it would have to take a couple of injuries, like a Lamine Yamal injury. Rafinha is actually out at the moment again. It would need to be 2 or 3 players, I think, for Real Madrid's productivity in an attacking sense to really sort of harm their results.
Taylor, Team Barca?
Yep, 100%. I feel like there is more that can go wrong and has gone wrong for Real Madrid. Atleti are just too far back at this point, and I feel like Barcelona have the ability to kind of churn out the results even with some of their unpredictability along the way. I would say Barcelona win it.
All right. Taylor, let's stay with you for Germany, where Bayern Munich have a
Bayern Munich.
Well, is it that straightforward? Because
Yes.
it's a 6-point lead.
Yes.
That's the same lead that Arsenal have over Man City. If you put it in that context, does it change anything?
Are Dortmund Man City?
Dortmund are not Man City.
I mean, dude, as I said in the weekend review, like watching Dortmund should have lost this weekend. Like it was Heidenheim beating Heidenheim. I cannot stress that enough. And if that happens, it's a different conversation, right? And it still feels like we've had the downturn in form for Bayern. We still had the little blip. They will still kind of correct things, in my opinion, and find a way to kind of cruise to the title. So, yeah, I still think it's Bayern, even if maybe Dortmund and Hoffenheim end up running them a little bit closer than we would have thought.
Okay. Can anyone make a case for it not being Bayern?
Yeah, I can try. So we've talked about, and I've watched Bayern's last 2 games. We've talked about how they have dipped in form a little bit, and I think that's a very real part of the equation. I think part of the reason for that is their defensive struggles, where they've actually been conceding goals in these last couple of games. And John McKenzie had a good video about this for The Athletic, basically breaking down some of the ways that teams have gotten at Bayern Munich. And this is absolutely squaring with what I've observed from this team as well. Vincent Kompany man marks aggressively. We saw it against Arsenal in the Champions League. We've seen it. We see it against everybody. They are a very man-oriented defensive team. And there were moments over the weekend where Harry Kane was defending as a center back because he'd been dragged all the way over there by his opposite. And the defensive shape was wild for this Bayern team. Teams are starting to figure out how to compromise Bayern's defensive structure. And if Kompany doesn't adapt, they're going to continue to at least concede chances, right? Whether that turns into goals or not, at what rate, I don't know. But I think this is maybe the most interesting test coming up for Vincent Kompany right now in this Bayern Munich team. Can he adapt his defensive tactics or change something so that teams stop taking advantage of the fact that they can drag Harry Kane 60 yards away from their own goal and put him back in the middle of the back line? Like, it is exaggerated how they're defending. I'm not exaggerating in my explanation of it. It's a fascinating setup right now, and I'm really, really curious to see what happens. They're still going to win the title, but that would be, I think, the thing that makes this crumble.
And much like J.J. Abrams, the director, when you're vibing with it and enjoying it, it goes well. When you're maybe not, it's really disastrous and really unfun. And I do wonder if, like, Bayern do continue to have that blip. I don't think they will. But if they did, like, I don't think we've seen Vincent Kompany have to really, like, respond to adversity at Bayern so far. And there is that question of, like, does he adjust what he's doing? Does he kind of stick with it? And if it continues to not work, does he stick with it too long? I would say this. I think Bayern will win the title. If they don't, I think Vincent Kompany is not the manager of Bayern Munich, like, well before the end of the season.
Which J.J. Abrams films are we slamming there, by the way, for the record?
At least one of the Star Treks.
The Star Trek one where Alice Eve was in her pants for no reason. Was it that one? Probably that one, right?
Or the third one that no one saw but definitely exists. That one too.
Okay, fair enough. Not enough lens.
They're like dirt bikes in the Star Trek movie for some reason, I think.
Wonderful. Graham, anything more on the Bundesliga?
No, I mean, the Bundesliga is a little bit of a blind spot for me, thanks to the terrible broadcast deal here in the UK where they don't show any matches. But yeah, I can't make an argument for anyone besides Bayern Munich.
Anti-German sentiment from the UK. Wow.
I know. Shocking,
I've seen everything.
Yeah.
Incredible. Joe, shall we go to Italy? Did you say a moment ago that maybe La Liga is the only one with a title race?
Kind of.
Inter have a 5-point lead over Milan at the moment. But Inter do have, the weekend after next, they're playing Juve. And in March, they've got the Derby della Madonnina. So if they fail to win both of those, that really does swing the race a little bit. It's reasonably tight. How do you feel about Serie A?
Yeah, and if Milan win every game, then that might swing it the other direction. And Milan's, I'm not playing this game necessarily. There are hard games left for every.
If my grandmother had wheels, she would be a bike. That sort of situation.
If you
Classic.
won games you drew, you get 3 points instead of 1, and then your mom would still be a bike. You know, like that. We can play this game all day, but I don't think anyone will be surprised, and who listens to the show regularly, to hear me say that I think Inter are going to win the title. I talk about Inter Milan more than I probably talk about any European team, and I still think they're really good. They have basically twice the non-penalty expected goal differential of Milan in second. So they are Milan. I think are behind Juve and maybe even another team in terms of non-penalty expected goal differential in Serie A as well. But Inter are really good. The transitioning from Inzaghi has been overblown, and I guess maybe not even overblown because we haven't mentioned it in months because it hasn't been a problem at all. They're playing basically the exact same way. They've transitioned their squad really, really well, especially in central midfield. Are they like a truly elite team who can win the Champions League this year? I'm a bit torn. I think the door is open for them. At least it's cracked. They're not in the favorite tier, of course. But are they the favorite to win the title in Serie A? Yeah. Do I think they're going to win it? Absolutely.
Okay. Graham?
Yep. Agreed. I think they have the strongest squad, still seem to have the muscle memory of the Inzaghi era, as Joe mentions, and Milan's consistency isn't quite there. And 5 points is like a decent cushion. I also wrote off Napoli last week, and I stand by that. I think Napoli are out of this now, so that reduces it to 2 teams, and clearly Inter right now are in the much better position.
I feel like the narrative is interesting around Inter, because after that Champions League final, it was like, this team's washed, they're all old, they've lost their coach, they're done, and then they've just gone and sort of this season.
I don't think that narrative has completely disappeared. Like, I do think there is a bigger transition coming down the line for them. It just hasn't been this season yet. So I think they definitely get one more Scudetto under their belt before that transition happens.
Okay. Grande Taylor, what do you think about Serie A?
Yeah, Inter.
Cool. All right. Finally, last but not least, Ligue 1, where, surprise, surprise, or quelle surprise, we should say, Paris Saint-Germain are top. They're 2 points clear of Lens in second place. In third is Marseille. They're on 39, so 9 points behind. But it is Le Classique this coming weekend, so first versus third there. Graham, it is a tight race technically. There's a 2-point lead that PSG have. Will they maintain it?
Yeah, I think so. I'm not going to pretend that I've watched loads of Ligue 1, so I guess I'm making this argument from a point of relative ignorance. And I know Lens are right there, and their underlying numbers are actually really strong. I think Joe made that point a couple of weeks ago, so that kind of suggests that they can hang until the end of the season. But now that PSG are ahead, like, this would be different, to state the obvious, to make Joe's point about bikes and wheels and mothers. If this was a few weeks ago and Lens were ahead, maybe this would be a little bit trickier. But now that PSG have taken control of that title race 2 points ahead, I would be shocked if they can, not only if they don't win this title, but if they concede top spot at any point between now and the end of the season.
There you go. Lots of bikes and wheels and mothers at the Velodrome, of course, Marseille's home. Joe?
Yeah, I have PSG as well, and everybody should, I suppose. I do want to pour one out for Lens, who have been amazing this season. They put up an amazing fight, and they were leading for a nice chunk of the year as well. They're such an interesting team in how they play, because I think we think about teams that are at the top of tables as playing in a very particular way, which is controlling the ball primarily. I mean, fundamentally, that's what I think about. That's not at all how they have been playing or how they did find themselves at the top of the table. They've been a middle-of-the-pack team in terms of possession, and they tend to sit deeper. Not that they're totally against high pressing, but especially against the other big guns, the traditional ones in France. They have sat deeper and played in transition, and it's worked really well for them. They've got good goalkeeping, they've got a clear understanding of how to play, and they've got some legit talent in this team that probably won't be there for very much longer. But PSG feel inevitable. They've recently signed Dro Fernandez from Barcelona, who we didn't mention in the first segment, but he is a teenager who is apparently viewed as like kind of the gem of the Barcelona academy, who's made his debut for Barcelona this year. They made a point, Barcelona, to actually give him minutes, and PSG said, "Yep, we're gonna take that from you and continue sort of the Spanishification of how we play," which I kind of love, to be totally honest. I mean, it's like nothing. It's like peanuts for PSG. You might as well go out and do something like this. And his name is Dro Fernandez, and he puts Dro on the back of his jersey, which just rules. So maybe for that alone, they're going to win the title.
Dr. Dro, looking good.
Yeah.
Pedro, right?
Dr. Dro, I quite like that. I think I read Barcelona are going to take PSG to court over that deal or something. So, yeah, they're peed off about it.
Good luck.
Pedro.
Yeah, I know.
UEFA tried that. Didn't go well.
Taylor, finally, your thoughts on Ligue 1?
Yeah, PSG.
Okay, very good. And while we have a minute, who's going to win the Champions League? Joe, I say Bayern Munich. Discuss.
Yeah, Bayern are in my top tier. So my top tier of teams. And I'm really tempted to do this thing where I take the top tier and then give you guys the field, and then we never remember to check back in on it, but I love that game more than anything. Bayern, Arsenal, and Barcelona are my top 3 teams. I'm going to say Barcelona are going to win it for funsies. I don't know. I think they're the most enjoyable of those 3 teams to watch. That doesn't mean they're the best team, as I said earlier, but I do have Barcelona winning this whole thing. Graham, if I gave you the field, would you take it?
Oh, over Barcelona?
No, and the other 2.
Oh no, not a chance.
Okay,
no. I think
Taylor, you take the field.
Taylor's taking the field.
Let's go.
Yep.
Who
I've
do
gone
you think would do it
for a
you?
ridiculous answer. My boring old answer was Barcelona, but I can't shake the feeling that it's Chelsea. That's my ridiculous
Wow.
one. Chelsea on the form they're on, the new manager, they've done this before. They bring in a new manager and it's all a disaster, and then they win the Champions League and also go to the Champions League final like the year before that. It feels like they've found some form. It feels like they have a new level of confidence. It feels like there's some squad harmony and some squad buy-in there. I don't know. I feel like Chelsea could spring a surprise, and even if they finish like 4th in the Premier League, still somehow win the Champions League.
That's going straight on Rosenier's LinkedIn page.
Yeah, and as he would say, winning the Champions League makes us champions of the league. If you really think about it, it makes us league
It makes
league
us
of the
champions.
champions.
If you think of league, it's Lee and H.
And good.
You think about it, we champs, and we're all made of ions. So
There we go.
Oh, it's the best.
Actually, it is written in the stars now that I think about it. Yeah.
Do you, Taylor? Are you being serious with that prediction? It's fine if you are. I'm not. That's no judgment there. I just wanted to understand if that's what you really think.
I came up with this answer late last night, and it was entirely vibes related. But I just kept seeing like reasons why I could doubt all of the primary contenders, all of the big ones, and then Chelsea. It just felt like I don't know. That's a stupid thing they would do is have way too many people fire their manager, bring in like a less heralded manager, and then somehow win the Champions League, and then probably fire him 4 games into next season for reasons.
Sold.
Graham?
I almost asked this last week, I think, and then we just didn't have time for it. Chelsea, the first club to have an AI manager, right? Like that feels also written in the stars that they'll be the ones to be like, yeah, we just want to see if we actually need a manager or if AI can do this whole thing.
One
for us.
now.
Well, I think they've got one of those Tesla robots in the back room. They're just waiting for society to accept them, and then they'll push it out.
Oh, wow.
I have not gone for Chelsea, although it would not be, I guess, overly surprising. I've gone for Bayern, who I think are the best attacking team in Europe at the moment. And this might be because, I don't know, don't take this personal, Arsenal fans, but I don't love watching Arsenal a lot of the time. And so that might be because I kind of secretly suspect Arsenal are the best team in Europe right now, but I kind of want a more fun team to win it. But Bayern have been incredible this year. Musiala and Davies are fit again, and I just kind of feel like they'll outscore everyone in the knockout rounds, which Barcelona might also do. But remember we were talking about Levante scoring 3 times against Barcelona. Yeah, I feel like Bayern score like 7 or 8 against Barcelona, so that kind of flips that equation for me. So I'll go with Bayern.
Okay, very good. Now watch Arsenal tank them again in this competition. Real quick fire, Europa League winner. I suppose Aston Villa have to be among the favourites, Graham?
Yep, certainly among the favourites. I've gone for Lyon, who are absolutely flying at the moment. Has anyone seen Endrick recently?
Oh,
he's joined him on loan. He's absolutely flying. He's on fire for Lyon at the moment, and he's not going to stay there for long, but he is there until the end of the season. And that's what we're talking about here. So I think Lyon, I think they've got a nice balance. They top the league phase, of course, so this isn't exactly a left field choice. But I feel like Villa seem to be losing a little bit of momentum at the moment. They've kind of lost their entire central midfield. So
Douglas Luiz will fix it all. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Graham, counterpoint. Agree with you about Villa. I just, for some reason, immediately dismissed Lyon because they were top. And it's like, yeah, you're not going to win. You finish top of the table. That means you're going to lose in like the 3rd round. What I have done is go for a team purely off of the feeling that, like, yeah, they could win the Europa League. And that team is Real Betis. And that is who I have selected. Real Betis is my answer. And I was so paranoid about it that was my note for Graham. I was concerned that Graham was going to try to claim them as well, and I wanted it established that I chose them first before Graham could.
Could you read it?
I chose Real Betis on a whim, and if Graham claims them as well, he is at least a spy. So you're not a spy, that's good.
At least.
But Real Betis will be your Europa League winners.
That's what a spy would want you to think.
4D chess being played over here. All right, real quick, I would like your Premier League top 4 and your Premier League relegation fodder. Joe's made a noise that suggests he wants to go first.
Yeah, that's what that noise was. All right, here we go. Relegation fodder, easy. The 3 that are there now. West Ham, Burnley, Wolves. Wolves lock. West Ham and Burnley also lock. Those teams are going down. Top 4, Arsenal 1, City 2, Chelsea 3, Liverpool 4. I honestly have no idea. Like, I truly have no clue. Manchester United, I just didn't have in it because I said they wouldn't do it the other day, and I can't back down like a coward. And Villa, we have seen a little bit of a dip, and I think it's maybe going to be enough to drop them out. I'm drinking the Liverpool Kool-Aid, absolutely, and Chelsea, why not? So that's my top 4. Arsenal, City, Chelsea, and Liverpool.
I like that top 4. Taylor, do you?
City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool. That was my top 4.
Wow, okay.
There we go.
Samesies.
All right.
Ish.
My question would be, if we're going with the 5th, though, because there is the 5th Champions League spot now, right? Is that Villa or Manchester United?
That's a
Or
great
somebody
question.
else.
I have Villa Do I feel great? No, I feel terrible about it.
I have Villa dropping out of my top 5. That's maybe my boldest. Up until now, I've gone with every team that's top of the top 5 leagues. I've gone with Bayern to win the Champions League and Lyon, who finished top of the league phase, to win the Europa League. This is my boldest prediction. I think Villa are going to drop out the top 5. And it does look like the Premier League is going to get, barring like all of their teams getting knocked out in the first round of the knockout phase of the Champions League, they're going to get 5 Champions League spots. So my top 5 is Arsenal top, City second, Liverpool third, Manchester United fourth, and then Chelsea fifth.
Okay.
And Villa sixth.
So it's coefficient based where the Premier League get that 5th spot,
right.
and it's looking like more than likely at this point.
Yes.
Okay. And you sorry, Taylor, go ahead.
I was going to say my relegation. I forgot to do that one. Wolves, Burnley, nailed on. It's probably West Ham, but I still am kind of buying the idea Graham threw out a while ago that it might be Palace. Even with the signings, I still feel like they brought in a bunch of attacking signings. And if those sputter at all, doesn't that just create even more pressure? And with a defense that I'm not sure I fully trust, maybe. I'll throw Palace in there. Why not? I'll be bold.
Graham, your relegations?
Wolves and Burnley are gone. I think West Ham will go down, but they're going to make a real fight of it, and I think Palace are going to get sucked in. I think that's going to be a bit of a scrap. Wouldn't surprise me if that went down to the final day.
All right. Very good. Prediction phase done. Congratulations, everybody. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, James Rodriguez has got a new adventure. It's a cold one. Join us then. Total Soccer Show, welcome back to the Bulletin. James Rodriguez, the odyssey continues. Apparently, the Colombian and his representatives in discussion with Minnesota United. He's a free agent at the moment. He's 34 years old, been out of contract since December when he was with Liga MX side Lyon. Joe, who's taking a sip, I'm going to vamp a little bit more.
I had no idea you were coming to me, Ryan. I had no idea how to manage this, how to balance this whole situation. What were you saying?
What's the latest on James?
Yeah, James Rodriguez, and I assume by his reps you mean the big bug, because I have it on good authority that his big bug represents him in all these contract discussions. Yeah, exactly. That's Mr. Big Bug. Sorry to all of us. This is the latest reporting that James Rodriguez, according to Tom Bogert, is in talks with Minnesota United. It sounds like this thing is pretty darn close to actually crossing the line. He, according to Tom, will not be a DP, and we're talking about a short-term deal, and I imagine those things are related. Now, what Tom has reported is that it's likely only to be a guaranteed deal through the World Cup. So will there be some sort of option for the second half of the season? That would make sense to me. There's been no reporting around that, but if I had to actually make just an educated guess, I feel like it'd be reasonable for both parties to say, hey, we're liking this, let's finish out the season and then kind of go from there. So I would imagine that is something that this could look like at the end of this day. This is a weird move, right? I mean, I think this has got to be the weirdest move of the offseason. I mean, there have been some other weird moves, like Timo Werner to the Quakes feels odd. This one feels way weirder than that. I mean, James Rodriguez feels a little bit more like an idea of a soccer player at club level than an actual soccer player, although he was good at Lyon, to be fair, and he did play a good number of minutes. But he's bounced around to 4 clubs in the last 4 years. This will be his 5th. And he is clearly Colombia first, right? Which is fine. Like, everybody's entitled to kind of manage that however they want. But that feels like a weird piece of this. And then you toss into the fact that Minnesota United are about the least style-wise James Rodriguez team that there could possibly be, where they basically played anti-soccer for all of last season. And I know there's going to be some sort of shift this year. That was already going to be the case, and this move only makes that more clear. But it still feels so weird that all of this is coming together in the way that it is. I'm loving it. I just can't believe it.
Okay. Graham, are you on the James train? Is he a concept of a soccer player right now, or is he a soccer player?
At club level, yeah. I mean, he's had 6 clubs in the last, 6 years. Hasn't played a huge amount of club soccer recently. 14 games in Liga MX for Lyon last season, 17 games the season before that. The last time that I really watched him at club level, I mean, we all watched him at the Copa America a couple of years ago when he was arguably the player of the tournament for Colombia. So that kind of tells you maybe where his emphasis is, where his focus is at this point in his career. But the last time I watched him regularly in the club game was for Rayo 3 seasons ago. And I say regularly, he played 6 games for Rayo and they terminated his contract after 4 months. So that doesn't bode well for Minnesota. But for Colombia, he is a pretty reliable difference maker. Like, he scored 3 goals in World Cup qualifying. He's still very much a first-team figure for them, and that's for a Colombia team that finished 3rd in qualifying and really could be a bit of a force at the tournament itself. So I think this deal is purely about James keeping the engine ticking over until the World Cup. And as long as I think expectations are in line with that purpose, I think this could be a fun deal for Minnesota. Like, I actually don't even know whether he will be, as ridiculous as this may sound, I don't even know if he's going to be sort of like a first-team player for Minnesota. Like, is he going to be coming off the bench in games? Is that the impact that he's going to make? Is he going to want to risk injury or running himself into the ground before the World Cup? I feel like he's going to have a lot of freedom and license to dictate that coming into Minnesota. But yeah, it's a novelty, and I didn't have this one on my bingo card for 2026.
Yeah. Taylor, is there a risk for among the Euro snob crowd that this is a MLS retirement league kind of move?
I think there would be if he was being like more well compensated, and if Minnesota were committing a more sizable chunk of their budget to this deal, then it would feel like they're just trying to get an A and they're spending whatever they have to spend. This feels like a cost-effective move that benefits them and benefits the player. So I kind of like it, and I really like James Rodriguez, and I think he's an exceptional player. Even if he's in an advanced age, even if he's not fully fit, I still think he can do things with the ball that other players really can't, and I think he can pull strings and dictate play. My question for Joe, if this is a move that is like to keep him fit for the World Cup, does James Rodriguez play a playoff game next season? This season, I should say.
Yeah. I mean, I would bet no, based off of the details that we have now, which is all that Tom's reported, that it's going to be some sort of short-term thing. How short-term, we don't know, right, at this stage. But no, I would bet no, either because he's not fit enough to play or because he's not on the team. I mean, that seems like the real risk here for Minnesota, which is that you're spending energy and efforts, not just in the signing process and spending money to bring him in under the salary cap and all those things. Minnesota have ample salary cap space, so that's not a problem. But it's that you're spending energy working your tactical approach around a guy who's probably not going to be there for the whole season, right? Or in one form or another, whether he's under contract or not, is probably not going to be playing in some of your most important games in a major role later in the year. I hope to be wrong about that, because I would love to see James Rodriguez play 30 games this year for Minnesota United. That would be electric. But that's the reality, is that you're probably not going to get that. And so how are you affecting the locker room? How are you affecting all of these hard-nosed, aggressive principles that you tried to build into your team and into your club as a whole over the last 2 seasons since Khalid Al-Ahmad has come into this group and they've sort of changed direction from the front office down? How are you keeping those things while also then having maybe a culture-breaking star? I'm not trying to have any affronts to James Rodriguez's character in here. I don't know the guy. I honestly don't know a whole lot about his personal life, but he's going to change the dynamics of the locker room. Like, there's no way that doesn't happen. He is a star, unlike all but 4 other players in Major League Soccer, thereabouts. I mean, he is on a different level than all of the other guys in that locker room. How is that going to change things? How is that going to impact what Minnesota United have built? And is it worth it to have that player in for what is probably going to be a few months of soccer, maybe more than that, but a relatively short-term thing? How is that going to compromise what you've built? Is it going to compromise what you built? And is it really worth rebuilding some things for this? I don't know. That's the part I'm not sure about. I don't have to worry about that because I'm not a Minnesota United player. But I can enjoy watching it from the outside while recognizing that there's going to be some chaos around this. I've just seen some people saying, "Oh, well, he's going to be one of the most talented people in MLS," and that's true. But there's more to this deal that you should think about whether you actually do it or not. So I don't know what this is going to look like, but it's going to be spicy.
Will be indeed. The 3 ways that James lives in my memory palace are giant bug at the World Cup,
Of course.
amazing goal at the World Cup, and the legendary Times of India headline when he transferred to Real Madrid. The name is Bond, James Rodriguez.
Oh man,
That was a genuine headline.
That is early Twitter heritage. That headline.
Yeah, I've pulled it up right now. It was very much a thing. Congratulations. We need the press over here to have an equivalent of that if he does sign for a Major League Soccer team in Minnesota specifically. It won't be the Washington Post because they've got no journalists left, but someone else can do that. Very good.
I mean,
He's going to win the World Cup. Major League Soccer.
Could do.
It's going to happen.
If Minnesota United's media team had anything about him, that's how they're going to announce this deal. Yeah. I think the main reason for my excitement here is the fact it's Minnesota. That it's not like Miami or LA or even like New York. Like if it's one of those teams, you kind of shrug your shoulders and you go, well, could be fun, but I think you sort of brush past it. I think it's really positive for MLS that, coupled with Timo Werner going to San Jose, now you've got James going to Minnesota. Like, we should want I don't mean this disrespectfully, the sort of non-glamour clubs to
Call
go
him
for
Morocco,
big
Graham.
names.
Just call him Morocco. Why don't you?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
if you
feel
could
like
make
there's
fun
some...
of Ohio while you're at it.
I've done that before. I'm not doing it again.
all.
It was RSL I've made fun of in the past. But like I would take pride in being a non-glamour club. Frankly, that's my thing. Those are my teams. I think it's a good thing for MLS that there's maybe a bit more of a spread in that regard starting to happen. So I'm pumped for it, even if he's only around until the summer.
Like, you all obviously have strong connections to the United States in different ways. How many people do you think in England know what Minnesota is?
Not many.
Okay.
Well,
because
in
that then
recent
begs the
weeks,
question:
probably a few
do we
more,
think
I'd say.
James knows what Minnesota is? Like, or do we think his agent was like, "Try in the summer, it's great. Don't worry about it. Don't ask any more questions. Look at the summer temperatures. Don't worry about right now. It'll be fine."
Oh, it's where Target Dog's from? Oh, Minnesota.
I'm in.
Right.
Spot lives there. I'm in.
Oh man.
I think his
I'm so
name's
excited.
Bullseye, actually, Joe.
My bad. Took a guess. Worth a shot.
It was one of the two.
It was really a 50-50.
There we go. Well, Minnesota fans will be hoping that James Rodriguez is on target. He'll certainly have one on the front of his shirt, won't he? There we
Well
go.
done.
Very good. All right, I think that's the bulletin done. Taylor Rockoff, thank you very much indeed for your contributions therein.
Thank you very much, my friend, especially for reminding me of the Bond James Rodriguez. That's terrific.
It's not even the name's Bond, it's the name is Bond. It's just the whole thing is perfect. The name is Bond, James Rodriguez.
Wow.
What incredible moment in journalism. Joe Larry, thank you very much.
Oh, wow. I mean, that might be one of the greatest headlines of all time. We're still talking about it all these years later. How many other headlines can you say that about? Thanks, Brian.
Exactly. In a way, it did its job better than it ever could have if it was a sensible headline. Graham Ruthven, thank you very much.
Thank you, Bailey. Ryan Bailey.
Dramatic. I like the delivery. Thank you very much, listener, for joining us in this one. We'll be back on the feed very shortly indeed. But for now, bye.